tired of this list, just like I'm sure you're probably sick and tired of the graphic organizer, although we haven't really done much with the graphic organizer lately. So I think we stopped.
We stopped on page 35.
We're on proteins now.
Did we do the functions?
No.
Okay, so functions at the bottom of page 35, right? Okay, connect. Okay, so this is where we are?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Wait, what? Wait, what? Protein.
Yeah.
okay, so we did do the functions.
We
did there.
We don't have that page.
Oh, great.
Well, not this one, we're at the versus protein.
Yeah, we don't have what's above protein. Yeah, we don't have above protein.
Oh.
Was there supposed to be a paragraph here?
Yes.
Oh.
What?
Okay, I'll give that to you next time.
Okay.
Yeah, my guess is that this is different too. Okay. I need to. I printed you out the wrong one. I have so many versions of these things. Let's. Okay.
Yeah, dude, I'm like looking at it like, you didn't mean something. Like, I was so adult. I know. I like that. I have favorites. You know how you guys got all like practice? I was on Facebook and like, you start to die. I was looking at it on
Okay.
I don't know. That was pretty freaking long.
Most of the time here. Let's go ahead and.
the trees. Oh.
Okay. So, as far as nucleic acids go, two primary functions, and we've already talked about these, so I'll just go through this really quick. The first of these you're familiar with, and that is heredity. Okay, you're aware that in order to transfer genetic information from cell to cell and organism to organism, the protein codes stored in the DNA have to be duplicated and in some fashion transferred into offspring cells. And the molecule responsible for heredity is DNA. Okay, deoxyribonucleic acid, right? DNA also functions as the protein code. And I know that we talked about this last time too, but it stores the instructions for how to make each of the tens of thousands of proteins. And again, I would hope that you're extraordinarily astonished. I've got this ball of fishing line inside every cell that's all tangled up. How many of you have seen a ball of fishing line that's all tangled up and you can't untangle that, right? There's no way to untangle it. Okay? So I've got tens of thousands of genes on this ball of fishing line, and I have to find this one little spot where this one gene is, and I have to tell it, okay, now print out this code. Print out this code, and then that code has to go out into the cell and meet the ribosome and get fed through the ribosome, right? But there's tens of thousands of these genes, and it should just amaze you that we can find this protein code that we need for each gene, for each protein. So the codes for each protein are stored as, we just said, what are they stored as? Genes, right? Organized on structures that we call what? What do we call all of this material here? And we have 23 of them, or 46 of them. They're chromosomes, right? Okay? All of the codes for all of the proteins are present in every cell. All of the codes for all of the proteins are present in every cell. Are you aware of any cells that don't have nuclei?
Prokaryotes?
Okay, are you aware of any human cells that don't have nuclei?
Oh, sperm.
Sperm cells have nuclei. What am I drawing here?
So it'd be like bacteria.
Okay, are you aware of human cells that don't have nuclei? There's a cell that looks like this. It's a
blood.
red blood cells, right? Red blood cells don't have nuclei in them. Okay? Once I make all of the hemoglobin that I need to store, I don't need a nucleus anymore, right? I don't need to make any more proteins. So the red blood cell expels the nucleus, and it uses all of the space inside the cell for hemoglobin. Okay? Understand that with all the protein codes that are stored in the nucleus, there is no room for us to actually make proteins, right? I've got that big ball of fishing wire surrounded by the nuclear membrane, and there's absolutely no room inside there to actually make the proteins. So these must be made in the cytoplasmic protein factories we call the ribosomes, right? Okay, therefore we also need a way to communicate with the protein factories which proteins to make, and these messages take the form, are taken to the ribosomes by a form of RNA, and we talked about this as well. What type of RNA did we say that was? That takes the message? Yeah, it's the messenger RNA, right? Okay, therefore we say that as far as protein codes go, DNA stores the code while RNA transmits or communicates the protein code. Okay, DNA stores the protein code, RNA transmits the protein code. Okay, so let me show you what I want. And I didn't put the list of how I want things here. So as far as nucleic acids go, whoops, that's not going to work. So as far as nucleic acids go, their functions are going to be heredity and the specific molecule there is DNA, and then the other function is it's the protein code, and we're going to say DNA stores RNA transmits. Okay, DNA stores, RNA transmits. And in order to get the extra credit, you need to say that the DNA stores and the RNA transmits. You can't just put DNA and RNA. Okay. So those two functions make sense, right? I've got my protein code, the DNA stores it, and the RNA transmits it to the ribosomes. And heredity, which is not the same thing as storing the protein code, heredity is the transmission of this from one cell to another. Okay? And we need to figure out how all of these things work. Okay, so now we are on proteins. Proteins are macromolecule polymers that first and foremost contain what? What atom?
Carbon.
Carbon. And what one always goes along with carbon? Hydrogen. Okay, nitrogen I'm going to put there. And then I'm going to put oxygen here, right? Okay, so remember we have, and we have the amino acids that make these things. They're composed of monomers called amino acids. I kind of like the red. I don't know. And remember, the amino group was NH2, right? I've got nitrogen with the two hydrogens, and then the acid part was the COOH group, right? And then I've got another carbon in the middle there, and I've always got a hydrogen above, and then whatever the specific thing is that makes it a particular amino acid below. And again, you'll never have to know or learn any specific amino acids. I just need you to know the basic structure of an amino acid. I've got an amino group and an acid group, right? An amino group and an acid group. Okay, a lot more functions in these guys. A lot more functions in these guys. Are you familiar with the terms keratin and collagen? Yeah? What are they? What kind of proteins would you classify them as? What's their function? Structure, absolutely, excellent. They are structural proteins, okay? So they function as structural proteins. Okay, keratin and collagen are structural proteins. Keratin is the main protein in your fingernails and in your hair and in rhinoceros tusks. Okay, obviously not elephant tusks, those are ivory, but these are the main proteins. Collagen is the protein that's what makes your skin flexible, right? That's the protein that's kind of like a rope. We've got lots of ropes in our connective tissue that structure that connective tissue together. Okay, collagen is also used as a plastic surgery kind of thing to fill empty spaces. Okay, controlling chemical reactions, enzymes. Are you aware of a type of chemical that speeds chemical reactions up? What would we call that kind of a, what's a thing that speeds reactions up? Anybody know? Huh? How about a catalyst? Okay, a biologic, enzymes are biological catalysts. Okay, we've already talked about enzymes in one context, and that is in the building and breaking down of macromolecules. What did we say we called the type of reaction when we're trying to hook two molecules together and we pull a water molecule out of that to join them? That's a dehydration reaction, right? And those dehydration reactions, there are thousands of different dehydration reactions, and each one of them requires a specific enzyme. We have thousands of enzymes in our cells. Okay? In the blood and cell membrane, we have transfer proteins. In the blood and in the cell membranes. Okay, so this is two different things here. I've got transfer proteins in the blood. I'm taking a molecule from one place to another. Another one that I should have put in there was hemoglobin. Hemoglobin carries oxygen from one place to the other. You would agree that that function is transferring something from one place to the other. Okay? Transferrin, the term F-E-R-R-I-N. Have you heard the word ferric before? What does ferric relate to? What element starts with Fe? Or what is the? Iron. Okay, so iron, transferring iron. This protein transfers iron. What does GLU remind you of? Glucose, right? This is the protein that transfers glucose in the cell membrane. So I have proteins in the cell membrane that transfer glucose from the blood into the cell. So I have transport proteins, or, wow, I screwed that up. Let's call these not transfer, but let's call these transport. Sorry. So make the F a P and then add a T to the end of it and make the E and O. Transport proteins, not transfer proteins. Okay? I saw the transfer there and put transfer. These are transport proteins. So GLU means glucose and the T means transport. Glucose transport proteins. So I have some things in the blood, and then I have some in the cell membrane that change or that take them from the blood and put them into the cell. Where have we seen glycoproteins before?
Carbohydrates.
Carbohydrates, what are they function as?
Cell communication.
Okay, so we're going to double dip here. We're going to put cell communication down here as well. So I have the glyco part of it up in the carbohydrates, right? These are the sugar molecules parts of it. And now we're also acknowledging the protein part of it. So cell communication. Okay, so that one should be easy to remember. Okay, as hormones and neurotransmitters, as what do I want to call these? How about let's call them chemical. And what do? They send what from place to place? A hormone tells a cell to do something. It's a message, right? We're going to call it a chemical messenger. Proteins act as chemical messengers. What other molecule acts as a chemical messenger? In our lipid group. Steroids, right? Steroids act as chemical messengers. Except there we said that it was a hormone. So let's see. Cell membrane receptors. Okay, if I've got a chemical messenger, I have to have something that receives the message. So in my cell membrane, I've got membrane receptors, right? I've got to receive these chemical messengers. So I've got membrane receptors. And then, what system do antibodies work in?
Defense?
Okay, but what system do we call that? The what system? The immune system, yeah. So I've got the immune system. So these are immune proteins. If you say, what are immune proteins, most people would think of antibodies. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 protein functions. Okay, I've got 8 protein functions. Structural proteins, biologic catalysts, transport proteins in blood and cell membranes, cell communication, chemical messengers, cell membrane receptors, immune proteins. Okay? That does take us to the end of our time, doesn't it? Just about. Okay? I'll give you a break this time. No question of the day next time. But 2 times from now, we're going to finish up proteins next time. 2 times from now, be prepared to be able to write out the whole chemistry list from memory. Okay? The whole thing.